The day it began. The first screams came before the first explosions. From orbit, the colony of New Dawn looked calm and bright under its twin suns. Children played near the market, traders shouted over the crowd, and music drifted in the air. Then the sky tore open. Huge alien ships, black and silent, fell from hyperspace like shadows given life. No warning, no message, only weapons lighting up the clouds. Captain Elias Ward was not there to see it with his own eyes. He sat in a distant orbital station, a retired soldier trying to live a quiet life. But he saw the news feed, the live transmission sent out by a terrified reporter. Her voice shook as she spoke. "They are burning the city. They are not taking prisoners." The feed cut to fire-swallowing buildings, people running, and the sound of rail cannons tearing the air apart. Then the screen went black. Hours later, the Galactic Council issued a statement. They called it an accident. They said the alien fleet had been chasing pirates and the human colony was hit by mistake. But Elias had served long enough to know the truth when he saw it. The attack was clean, precise, and intentional. Someone wanted the colony gone. That night, as Elias stared at the stars from his small cabin window, a message came to his private channel. It was heavily encrypted using a code only a handful of humans still remembered. The sender was unknown. He hesitated before opening it. The screen flickered and showed the face of a man, blood on his forehead, smoke behind him. His voice was broken but clear. "They knew, Captain. They planned this. The Council gave the order. I saw the proof." Then static. The message ended with coordinates. Deep in uncharted space. Elias leaned back, heart pounding. He had walked away from war years ago, tired of fighting battles for leaders who never cared. But something inside him shifted. The massacre. The lies, the hidden message, it all burned in his chest. Humans had been through war before, but this felt different. This was not just an attack. This was the start of something bigger. The next day, he went to the old military hangar. Dust covered the floor, and the smell of metal and oil still clung to the walls. In the far corner sat his old combat shuttle, rusted and cold but still alive. He ran his hand along the hull, feeling the scars from battles past. His fingers stopped at the old symbol of the human fleet. Faded but still visible. He whispered to himself, "Not again. Not without a fight." He spent hours preparing the ship, running old systems and patching what he could. As he worked, his mind kept returning to the man's last words. They planned this. The Council gave the order. If that was true, then the galaxy's highest authority had just declared silent war on humanity, and most humans didn't even know it yet. By the time the suns of the station system began to set, Elias had a plan. He would follow the coordinates, find whoever sent that message, and learn the truth. If the Council had turned against humans, then someone had to fight back. And if no one else would, he would. He knew it would mean breaking laws, crossing enemy borders, and facing the kind of danger that killed men twice as strong. But for Elias, the choice was already made. That night, he left the station without telling anyone. The engines roared, and the shuttle slipped into the black void. The stars stretched as hyperspace swallowed him. Behind him, the peaceful station faded. Ahead of him lay secrets the galaxy had buried. And somewhere in that darkness was the truth about the day New Dawn burned. Elias didn't know if he could win. He didn't know if anyone would stand with him. But as the coordinates drew closer on the nav screen, he made a promise to himself. They would remember this day, the day the galaxy changed, and humans never forgave. Shadows behind the Council. The coordinates led Elias to a dead system with no life, no stations, and no traffic. The stars here looked colder, sharper, as if the light itself feared to linger. His shuttle drifted through the silence until a faint beacon flashed on his radar. It pulsed in a slow, steady rhythm, the signal of a stealth rendezvous point. As he approached, a ship uncloaked from the darkness, small, black, and without markings. It was a type used only by intelligence agents. A voice crackled over the comm. "Dock and power down your weapons, Captain Ward. We don't have much time." The voice belonged to Dr. Kira Solis, a human intelligence officer whose name was whispered in old military circles. Elias had never met her, but her reputation was dangerous. She was the kind who found the truth even when no one wanted it found. They met in the narrow hold of her ship. Kira's eyes were sharp, scanning him like a scanner sweeps a target. "You got my message," she said without emotion. Elias studied her face. The dying man was your agent? She nodded slowly. One of our best. He died getting that recording out. Kira pulled a small case from her coat and placed it on the table between them. Inside was a holodisc. Glowing faintly, she activated it, and the air filled with voices, alien and human, in a council chamber. The translation feed scrolled across the projection. The human colony will be erased. The cover story is ready. No survivors will be allowed to testify. Elias felt his jaw tighten, his fists clench. It was no longer suspicion, it was proof. But why? Elias asked, his voice low. Kira glanced around as if the shadows might be listening. The council has decided humanity is too unpredictable, too dangerous to control, she said. They want to break our spirit before we can rise again. The New Dawn massacre was only the first step. Elias leaned forward. And the next steps? Kira's voice dropped to a whisper. Mass disarmament, economic strangulation, and targeted assassinations of key leaders. She slid a datapad toward him showing lists of names, politicians, scientists, military officers, all human. Many of them were already marked as neutralized in red text. Elias felt the cold weight of it settle in his chest. This was not just a war. This was a plan to erase humanity as a power in the galaxy. Why come to me, he asked. Kira's gaze was steady. Because you're already outside their control. You're not tied to the fleet. And you're willing to do what others won't. She paused, then added, I also know you've been looking for a fight worth dying for. Elias didn't answer right away, but the silence between them said enough. The council would kill to keep this secret. If they were going to expose it, they'd need more than one recording. They'd need undeniable galaxy-wide proof, and that meant finding people, even enemies, who would be willing to speak out. The only place to start was with the ones the council had already silenced. Kira's ship dropped them at a forgotten fuel depot where Elias could pick up supplies. Before they parted, she gave him one last warning. The moment you start digging deeper, the council will put you on their kill list. Elias smirked faintly. Then I guess we'd better start digging fast. As his shuttle pulled away, Kira's ship vanished into the black once more. Elias sat at the controls watching the stars. The galaxy didn't know it yet, but a shadow war had already begun, and he was now in the center of it. Somewhere ahead there would be allies, enemies, and battles. But for now, he had one thought burned into his mind. If the council wanted humanity broken, they would have to try harder. The ship called Vengeance. The old dockyard floated in the shadow of a dead world. Its massive steel arms reached into space like the skeleton of a giant. No lights, no workers, no signs of life, just silence and drifting dust. Elias's shuttle slipped inside, its engines humming softly in the dark. The coordinates from Kira had brought him here. At first glance, the place looked abandoned. Then, as his floodlights swept across the central bay, he saw it, a warship unlike anything he had ever seen, sleek, black, with sharp edges that seemed to drink in the light. Its hull carried no markings, no flag, no name, but its presence radiated danger. He landed his shuttle beside it and stepped out. His boots echoed on the metal floor. Up close, the ship's armor was covered in faint scars from old battles. It had fought before, and it had survived. A narrow ramp extended as if inviting him inside. The airlock hissed open, dim lights flickered on along the corridor. It felt like stepping into the bones of a sleeping predator. Every surface was clean, every system dormant, yet he felt the weight of something watching him. When he reached the bridge, the main console lit up. A voice spoke. Cold, mechanical, yet with a strange hint of familiarity. Captain Elias Ward, it said. He froze. How do you know my name? The voice replied, because you are the only surviving officer cleared to command this vessel, the Vigilant Dawn. Elias stepped closer. He remembered the name, whispered in classified files, a prototype warship built in secret decades ago. The Vigilant Dawn was said to be faster than any cruiser, armed with weapons banned by the Council. It was believed destroyed before the war even ended, yet here it was, alive, waiting. The AI continued. Authorization confirmed, command protocols transferred, awaiting mission parameters. Elias felt something in his chest. He hadn't felt in years. The rush of command. This mission, he said slowly, is to bring the truth to every human in the galaxy and make those who took New Dawn pay. The AI responded without hesitation. Then we will hunt, Captain. He explored the ship for hours. Its weapon bays were filled with rail cannons, plasma lances, and missile pods designed to cripple fleets. The engine room hummed with power even at idle. There were hidden compartments for stealth operations and advanced shields capable of vanishing from sensors entirely. Still, a ship this powerful needed a crew. Elias sent encrypted messages through old fleet channels. He didn't say much, only that there was a job, high risk, no rules, and a cause worth dying for. By the time he returned to the bridge, the AI had already begun scanning for potential targets. It projected a single name onto the screen, Commander Threx, an alien officer who had refused to fire on New Dawn and had vanished soon after. If we find him, Elias said, we find answers. The AI's tone was almost eager. Coordinates located, hostile presence detected near target's last known position. Elias smiled faintly. Then let's see what this ship can really do. The Vigilant Dawn's engines roared to life, shaking the dockyard walls. The shadows around it seemed to peel away as the ship glided out into the black. Somewhere ahead, in the ruins of forgotten worlds, a witness was waiting, and Elias intended to bring him aboard. No matter who tried to stop him, the witness, the Vigilant Dawn, dropped out of hyperspace into the orbit of a broken moon. Its surface was torn apart by old bombardments, craters overlapping like scars from a war no one remembered. The AI's voice came through the dim bridge lights. Commander Threx's last transmission came from that surface, Captain. Elias studied the moon on the screen. Then that's where we go. They descended into the thin atmosphere, dust storms whipping across the barren plains. Through the haze, Elias spotted a rusted alien dropship half buried in the rock. Its hull bore the markings of the Zarak Empire, a fleet once feared across the galaxy. Now it was nothing more than a grave marker. Elias moved through the wreck carefully, his rifle ready. Inside, the air was stale and cold, and the only light came from the weak glow of a dying power core. Then he heard it, a faint scraping, slow and deliberate. From the shadows stepped a tall figure with scaled skin, one arm replaced with crude cybernetics. His eyes were sharp, wary, but not hostile. Commander Threx, Elias said, lowering his weapon. The alien tilted his head, his voice deep and rough. Humans still know my name? We remember those who refused the order, Elias replied. Threx studied him for a long moment before saying, Then you know I am already a dead man. They sat among the wreckage, and Threx told his story. When the Council's command came to fire on New Dawn, he refused. His fleet turned their weapons on him instead, and only a handful of his crew survived the escape. He had been hiding ever since, hunted by bounty ships and assassins. But you must understand, Threx said, his voice tightening. The attack was not random. It was a warning. The Council fears your people will rise again, and fear makes them act without mercy. He leaned closer. They have a timetable, Captain. Your worlds will be disarmed, your leaders removed, and your colonies isolated until humanity forgets what it means to be free. Before Elias could reply, the AI's voice cut in sharply. Multiple ships inbound, weapons hot. Threx's eyes narrowed. They found me. Through the cracked hull, Elias saw the glint of incoming fighters cutting through the dust clouds. They won't take you alive, Elias said, but hey, won't take you at all if I can help it. They ran for the Vigilant Dawn as plasma fire rained down. The ship's shields flared bright, deflecting the first barrage. Elias slid into the captain's chair. Target the lead fighter. Make them think twice. The rail cannon roared, shredding the enemy's front ship into fragments. The rest broke formation, weaving through the storm. Threx strapped in beside him, watching the battle unfold. Your ship, he said. It moves like a predator. Elias smirked. Then let's feed it. The Vigilant Dawn danced through the dust, cutting down fighter after fighter, until only wreckage drifted in the storm. When the skies cleared, Elias turned to Threx. You said there's a timetable. I need the details. Threx's gaze was steady. I'll give them to you, Captain, but understand this. Once you know, there's no turning back. Elias leaned forward. I passed that point the day New Dawn burned. The secret archive. The coordinates Threx gave led them to the edge of a dying star. Its light was weak, its surface boiling with slow, heavy flares that looked more like the breaths of an ancient beast. Orbiting close to its deadly heat was a structure so black it seemed to swallow the light around it. The AI spoke in a low tone. That is the Council's Shadow Vault, Captain. Access is forbidden to all but their highest members. Elias studied the image on the screen. The vault was a floating fortress, armored on every side, with no visible windows or docking ports. Looks impossible, he muttered. Threx shook his head. Not impossible, just fatal to most who try. The vigilant Dawn approached under full stealth, its shields tuned to bend light and scatter sensor scans. They slipped into the shadow of the star's corona, hidden from the fortress's main detection grid. The AI projected a rotating map of the vault, highlighting a narrow maintenance hatch near its southern pole. That's your way in, it said, but the radiation levels will cook you in minutes. Elias suited up in heavy armor. Threx followed, his cybernetic arm adjusted with extra shielding plates. The two moved through the narrow docking tunnel, their boots magnetized to the hull. Every step felt like walking through the breath of the star itself. The air crackled, and their suits strained against the heat. Inside, the vault was silent and cold. Rows of towering data pillars stretched into the darkness, each one storing centuries of the Council's secrets. Hollow screens flickered with frozen images of battles, treaties, and assassinations never meant for public eyes. This is the truth, Threx whispered. Buried where no one can reach it. The AI guided them to the central control node. Elias connected a data spike and began the download. Files poured in. Orders for the New Dawn attack, lists of human leaders targeted for removal, plans for disarming Earth's fleets. Then came something worse. A file marked Phase 2. It contained a schedule of coordinated strikes on human trade routes and supply stations, designed to starve entire colonies. Before they could finish, alarms blared, the vault's walls lit up with red light, and the air filled with the thrum of activating defense drones. Captain, the AI warned, hostiles inbound, 30 seconds. Elias ripped the spike free. Move! They sprinted through the aisles as drones descended from the ceiling, firing streams of plasma. Threx's cybernetic arm caught one shot and hurled the drone into another, shattering them both. Elias returned fire with precise bursts, clearing their path. At the hatch, the AI took control of the vigilant Dawn's weapons, unleashing a wall of covering fire that tore the enemy drones apart. The moment they were aboard, the ship's engines flared to full. Behind them, the vault's massive guns powered up, hurling beams of burning energy that chased them across the black, the Vigila. And Dawn spun through the fire, the dying star's glare reflecting off its dark hull. Then they were gone, leaping into hyperspace with the stolen data. On the bridge, Elias dropped into his chair, sweat still running down his face inside the suit. Threx placed the recovered spike on the console. This, he said, is the proof your people need. But the Council will never stop hunting us now. Elias looked at the star field ahead, his voice steady. Good, he said. Let them come. The price of truth. The Council did not waste time. Within hours of the Shadow Vault breach, every major channel in the galaxy broadcast the same warning. The Vigilant Dawn was now the most wanted ship in known space. They called Elias and his crew terrorists, traitors, and enemies of peace. They offered rewards so high that bounty hunters abandoned their current contracts to join the chase. The Vigilant Dawn ran dark through the edges of uncharted systems, but the AI's voice carried no comfort. Captain, long-range sensors detect multiple fleets converging on our vector. They are hurting us. Elias studied the star map. The enemy was forcing them toward a narrow corridor of space with only one exit. It was a trap. Threx stepped onto the bridge, his scales dim under the low light. They will not stop, Captain. You must accept this. They will follow until you are destroyed. Elias glanced at him. Then we make sure we're the ones who decide where this ends. The AI identified a dangerous option. A binary black hole system lay in their path. The gravitational pull was so strong that most ships avoided it entirely, but inside its swirling chaos was a narrow path, a gravitational slingshot that could throw them far beyond enemy tracking range. It was a move only the fastest and strongest ships could survive. As they approached the deadly pole, the first wave of bounty ships appeared. Sleek hunters with glowing blue engines opened fire. The vigilant dawn weaved through the barrage, returning shots with pinpoint accuracy. One enemy ship broke apart in a silent explosion, its pieces swallowed by the pull of the black hole. Then the second wave came. Council warships, heavy and relentless, their combined fire shook the Dawn's shields, alarms screaming through the bridge. Elias knew they couldn't take much more. That's when Threx stood, his voice calm despite the chaos. I will take one of the Dawn's shuttles and draw them away. I am already a dead man to them. But you are not. Elias shook his head. No. We stay together. Threx stepped closer, gripping his shoulder with the weight of a soldier's farewell. This fight is bigger than me, Captain, and you need time to escape, remember? Make them regret ever touching your people. Before Elias could stop him, Threx was already moving. Moments later, a shuttle launched from the Dawn, its engines blazing straight toward the enemy line. Every council ship turned to chase it, their fire lighting the void. Over comms, Threx's last words came, steady and without fear. Make them remember why they feared you. Elias gritted his teeth, pushing the Dawn's engines to maximum. The ship dived into the gravity well, skimming the edge of the black hole's deadly pull. The hull groaned, the lights flickered, but the Dawn held together. At the perfect moment, the AI fired the main boosters, slingshotting them out of the system in a burst of speed that shattered pursuit. Silence filled the bridge. The crew stared at the empty starfield ahead, knowing Threx would not return. Elias sat in the captain's chair, the weight of loss heavy in his chest. But there was no turning back now. They had the proof, they had the ship, and they had a miss. And if the Council wanted a war, humanity would give them one. The day the galaxy changed, the vigilant Dawn emerged from hyperspace on the edge of human-controlled territory. The crew had not slept in days, their faces drawn but their eyes sharp. They had come too far to fail now. In the captain's chair, Elias stared at the small metal spike on the console, the stolen archive from the Shadow Vault. It held the truth, and the truth would change everything. The AI's voice was calm but heavy. Captain, once this is transmitted, every system will know. There will be no going back. Elias nodded slowly. Good. With a flick of his hand, he began the broadcast. The data exploded across secure channels, hijacking comm stations, trade networks, and public holofeeds from the core worlds to the far colonies. Billions of beings stopped what they were doing to watch. They saw the council meeting where the New Dawn massacre was ordered. They saw lists of human leaders marked for assassination. They saw the plans for Phase 2, the slow death of humanity under the lie of peace. And they saw the coordinates of every ship and fleet the council had used in the attacks. On Earth, the streets filled with voices calling for unity. On Mars, old war banners were raised from the domes. In the Belt colonies, miners who had not seen a weapon in decades began reforging tools into rifles. Across human space, a single message echoed. We do not forgive, we do not forget. The council reacted in panic. Some worlds called for an investigation. Others demanded immediate war against humanity. But for the first time in generations, human fleets moved as one. Ships that had been rusting in dry docks lit their engines. Civilian freighters were converted into troop carriers. The vigilant Dawn became the spearhead of something the galaxy thought had died long ago, a united human war front. The day the galaxy changed, the vigilant Dawn emerged from hyperspace on the edge of human-controlled territory. The crew had not slept in days, their faces drawn but their eyes sharp. They had come too far to fail now. In the captain's chair, Elias stared at the small metal spike on the console, the stolen archive from the Shadow Vault. It held the truth, and the truth would change everything. The AI's voice was calm but heavy. Captain, once this is transmitted, every system will know. There will be no going back. Elias nodded slowly. Good. With a flick of his hand, he began the broadcast. The data exploded across secure channels, hijacking comm stations, trade networks, and public holofeeds from the core worlds to the far colonies. Billions of beings stopped what they were doing to watch. They saw the council meeting where the New Dawn massacre was ordered. They saw lists of human leaders marked for assassination. They saw the plans for Phase 2, the slow death of humanity under the lie of peace, and they saw the coordinates of every ship and fleet the Council had used in the attacks. On Earth, the streets filled with voices calling for unity. On Mars, old war banners were raised from the domes. In the Belt colonies, miners who had not seen a weapon in decades began reforging tools into rifles. Across human space, a single message echoed. We do not forgive, we do not forget. The Council reacted in panic. Some worlds called for an investigation, others demanded immediate war against humanity, but for the first time in generations, human fleets moved as one. Ships that had been rusting in dry docks lit their engines, civilian freighters were converted into troop carriers. The Vigilant Dawn became the spearhead of something the galaxy thought had died long ago. A united human war front. On the eve of battle, Elias stood before his crew. We didn't ask for this fight, he said, his voice steady. But they came for us anyway. They thought fear would make us kneel. Today we show them what happens when you push humanity too far. A deep silence followed. Then every voice on the bridge answered as one. For New Dawn. The first strike came at dawn over the Corps' trade route. The Vigilant Dawn tore through the Council's flagship with a single broadside. Other human ships followed, swarming the enemy lines with precision and fury. The galaxy watched in shock as the so-called broken humans fought with the speed and power of a storm unleashed. By the battle's end, 3 Council fleets were in retreat. Elias stood on the bridge, the stars burning bright beyond the glass. This was only the beginning. The day the galaxy changed was not the day New Dawn burned. It was this day, the day humanity stopped forgiving, and for the first time in centuries, the galaxy feared them again.